Hey, welcome to the Hell Has an Exit podcast. I'm your host, Bryan Alzate. This show is not affiliated with any specific 12-step program. If you or a loved one is struggling with an addiction, please find a local 12-step meeting. If you believe you may need detox or drug treatment of any kind, please call 833-999-1877 to speak to a specialist. The show is sponsored by United Recovery Project, a state-of-the-art drug and alcohol rehab facility. You can visit our website at unitedrecoveryproject.com. Hey, welcome to Hell Has an Exit. I'm your host, Bryan Alzate. On this show, we interview a lot of recovering addicts. We do a lot of stories of people that have struggled through adversity. We've done a lot of wrongful conviction stories. People went to prison for 10, 15, 20 years that were wrongfully convicted of murders and crimes they did not commit, and their story of hope and having to come out and start a life all over. We do a lot of recovering addicts, obviously. We've even done a Holocaust survivor. But yeah, the point of this show is to inspire people and to show people that, change is possible. If you guys want, you could follow us on Instagram at Hell Has an Exit. That's probably where we're most vocal on Instagram, and we have TikTok. This is also on video, so you can check us out on YouTube as well at Hell Has an Exit. Please subscribe, tell a friend. If you guys want to help the show out, as much people we could get listening to the show, the better. Shout out to DB Podcast, my boys Jordan and Miles. You guys are the best, always giving us that fire quality sound. People always ask me, like, bro, who produces the show? I'm like, dude, these guys. So Jordan and Miles, you guys do a great job with sound. Shout out Des for the video quality. Today we got Shane. Shane, what's your last initial?
S.
Shane S. All right, Shane.
SS, always called Impala, I guess. They joked with me when I was growing up.
The SS Impala?
No, I was really clumps, actually. I was really clumsy when I was young.
You were clumsy?
Oh, yeah.
You're still clumsy?
No, I kind of grew out of it. I guess my 30s, I kind of got out of the clumsy era.
What happened?
I think maybe I just stopped fucking up.
Where are you from?
Born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, grew up in Plantation. I currently reside in Coral Springs.
Mm-hmm.
So I was Florida born, Broward born, and raised.
There you go. Not too many. Yeah, I do a lot of Florida natives on here, bro, because
there's not many of us.
Nah, bro, but I'm from Florida, so I don't realize how crazy it is. But whenever I tell someone a story, they're always like, "That's some Florida shit."
There's quite a lot of those on headlines and locally, for sure.
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah, I actually know you because my BFF, best friend Carl, is friends with you. You guys grew up together. I remember for years, he'd be like, "Oh, man, my boy Shane." He'd always be like telling me stories about you. And I actually remember seeing you, I think, at Aisha's wedding and Carl's wedding. Any type of like significant thing, like I would always see you around. And honestly, bro, I was just like scared of you. I was like, bro, this dude looks like he's going to eat me alive.
I'm definitely not that guy anymore.
Hey, I appreciate that, bro. It's cool. So, you got an amazing story. You just celebrated 6 years clean. That's badass, dude. So where did it all start?
It started, I would say, when I was 13, my grandfather passed away. I was in middle school, and I was kind of like, would keep to myself. And then when my grandfather passed away, I started hanging out with the guys in the neighborhood. And I was really just trying to fit in. Mm-hmm. And I ended up turned into an absolute animal, trying to fit in. Everything that they would do, I would do it to an extent, not even drugs yet, just a bad lifestyle. Mm-hmm. For me, I was getting in trouble, fighting, robbing, just doing shit that nobody's supposed to do.
Yeah, at that young age.
I remember when I first started hanging out, there was literally a mile from here, the crooked sidewalk. Mm-hmm. And every Friday and Saturday night, they would be out partying late, and I would have a drink, and I would take a sip of it, and I look around and nobody was looking, and I would toss it in the canal because I was like, this is disgusting. And then I went away to a juvenile program.
For what?
I beat some kid up that lived in this neighborhood. His dad happened to be a lawyer.
Wow.
And his dad pressed charges on me. So I went to a juvenile program in Pembroke Pines for like 8 months, got out, and I kind of, same thing. Every time you go away, you come back, you're good for a little bit, and then before you know it, you're back to the same old shit. I started selling drugs. Mm-hmm. I met a dude who was a barber, and first he just asked me to start dropping stuff off for him. I was making a couple $. And before you know it, I was selling and lots of weed and cocaine and all this other stuff. When I was 17, turning 18, I got arrested for trafficking cocaine. I was on house arrest waiting to go to trial, and the judge, my dad had just bought a house in Orlando, and I was going to go to school in Valencia, try to get the fuck out of Broward. The judge asked me, the judge went to court, the judge gave me permission to move to Orlando until trial started. If I got enrolled in school, they were going to let me off house arrest. Our boy was working at Publix at the time.
He loves Publix. His whole family worked there.
Everybody. Some of them still do.
Yeah.
So he actually drove me to this kid's house. And I was the type of person, even when I had money in my pocket, like if I seen something that you had that I think I could take, I kind of would. So he was with me. He's like, yeah, he didn't like the idea. He's like, I'm going to go to work. So we left, and then I came back. And as soon as we came back, I like just walked in the kid's door and just, I beat him up. Took everything from me that he had, broke his eye socket, left. I was on house arrest. I literally had just left court, getting off. Within hours, I got permission to move to Orlando. I went to this house to get weed. Left, came back, robbed them. Left, I called my lawyer. I was like, listen, I think I just did something really bad. He's like, go home. Do not come out the house until it's time for you to move to Orlando. And on Thursday morning, it's time to go. You go straight to Orlando. Next thing I know, I'm getting phone calls from people who I grew up with who said they were going to, like, he was messing with some girl that knew the kid, and he said he wanted to be a cop. He's like, where are you? The police are looking for you. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I moved to Orlando, and
that was before the Ring camera.
Yeah, yes. That's ages ago. So I came back for court. So I was an idiot. I was on house arrest in Orlando. I had time to leave like every day. One day I came back late. I don't even remember why. So I came back for court. And it was Memorial Day weekend years ago. I just remember it because my cousin's birthdays. I was walking. The judge let me off house arrest. I'm walking out of the courtroom, and my house arrest lady walks in with a warrant for my arrest because I came in late in Orlando. And my lawyer's like, "Oh, don't worry, you'll be out on Tuesday. We'll have court on Tuesday. You'll be out. It's just a long weekend." I was like, "Fine." So I'm in the Broward County Jail, and they call my name to tell me my charges. And they're like, oh, you got no bond for violation of house arrest, and you got a charge for home invasion, robbery, felony battery with resulting great bodily harm. And I was like, oh, fuck. I called my mom. I was like, Mom, I'm not coming home for a while. I ended up taking YO sentence, youthful offender sentence. I got 1 year in prison. 2 years in prison, 4 years out. You know, you go away at that age, and it's like
How many did you do in?
Well, this time I did 2 years in, 4 years probation.
At 18?
Yeah, I was 17, turning 18, yeah.
Damn.
So, you know, you go in there and you kind of like, you're thrown to the wolves, and you kind of just, in the jungle, act like an animal. And I guess it was just something it's just something that I lived at the moment. You get out, same old shit, stay out of trouble for a little bit, and then before you know it, it's back to the same old shit. And then in 2007, my best friend Lucho got murdered. And I was doing good for a little while. I had a girlfriend. And when he got murdered, it was really hard on me. I started self-medicating, not to the point where it was out of control, but I was definitely the time where like blues were cheap. I was really, at first I was scared to like get dope sick. So I was like, take them for a day, wait a couple days, take another one. And then I started fucking up again. I started some grow houses. My dad had property. We had a grow house in Coral Springs. Well, we had a house in Coral Springs, and I was selling blues, doctor shopping, taking addicts to
sponsoring people.
Yeah. So one day, I'll never forget. I got a letter in the mail to get off probation early. I went to the barber shop. I picked up this girl, and I took her to the doctor. It was right on 84. I took her to the doctor. I dropped her off. She called me, and she's like, hey, I need like 20 or 30 bucks. Now, these were the doctor's office where you would go in, you would see the doctor, and they would fill him there.
Yeah, the script and the doctor in one.
I didn't know any better. I came back to pick her up. I reversed, and mind you, I had a BMW with like all tints on it. You couldn't see anything in it. She came to the window. She got the cash. She went back inside. She came back out. She got in the car. We split the pills and then bounced. I got on 84. This is between Pine Island and University. I got on 84. I made a right on University, kind of where the Burger King is across from the tower shops.
Yeah.
And I see the lights pull me over. They don't even ask me for anything. Well, first they pulled me over. They said, license and registration. When I went to reach for it, they just ripped me out the car and searched me. I had 40 blues on me. I got arrested for violation of probation and trafficking, Roxy or blues, whatever. I copped out to 3 years in, 3 years out. I was literally getting high the whole time. I would work out, and then when the drugs would hit the compound, I would get high.
What camp were you at?
I mean, I've been to Lancaster, DeSoto, Madison. I've been quite a few.
Which one has the best food?
The one that the food that you could buy. That's it. Yeah. So I did 3 in, 3 out. So this last time the first like a year and a half of my bid, I was a permanent at South Florida Reception Center. I became really close with this guy, Jeff, who ended up becoming my best friend. I had it so sweet there, but I ended up getting in a fight with the guy, and he bit me. I beat him. It's a long story. It's a long story. He ended up shitting his pants, and he went to the police.
Oh no!
And we both got shipped. So I ended up at DeSoto. I finished my sentence there. I got out. First, I was doing good. I had a girlfriend, and then my buddy Jeff. I call my buddy Jeff, and I'm general manager at Goldfinger's. Mm-hmm. And he's like, man, come in and get a job. I was like, I'm all in. Let's go. So I go there. I was working. I was making like $200-$300 a day, but it's a very like shady lifestyle. Mm-hmm. All the girls are getting high. The money's there. So before you know it, I'm like popping pills here and there. I was dating a girl at the time, and she had a prior heroin addiction, and I had never been with anybody who was like a full-blown addict. Mm-hmm. But when we first got together, she wasn't using. And then I guess like the late nights in the club, I was working late, not always around. She started doing pills and heroin, all this stuff behind my back. To the point where, I ended up getting fired from the club for doing stuff I wasn't supposed to do. I was messing around with a girl that was no good for me. This is kind of around the time our friend got married. Mm-hmm. My girl was doing heroin. I was trying to get her clean. She was boosting. She had a warrant out for arrest. So we had to move where we were living from because she was on the run. So here I am, always had money in my pocket, always had cars. Now I'm running the streets with my girlfriend while she's getting high. At the time, I was just smoking spice. She was...
mainly to like evade a drug test? Or you just got used to it in prison?
Well, that just added... I literally think like the whole time that I was on probation, I was probably like trying to smoke like every once in a while and get away with it. But it was mainly just drinking and like pills because I knew I could get away with the pills. Mm-hmm. But like I said, the thing with the pills is I was always
scared of getting sick.
Because I dealt with people in the doctor's offices or the people that I would spot so strung out. And that shit would scare me to the point where like I would actually get Suboxone just in case I was taking them too many days in a row because I didn't want that. I was scared to death of that feeling. So now my girl and I were literally homeless, living out of a car. She's boosting every day out of like Bed Bath & Beyond. And then going to pawn shops to get like 50% of the stuff that she would steal it and then go return it. Mm-hmm. And then she would get half the money back at the pawn shop. She would get enough money just to buy dope so she wasn't dope sick and enough to get a hotel room. Eventually, she wasn't getting enough money to get us a hotel room. Mm-hmm. And she was doing so much heroin. So she would give me the dope to hold because she didn't want to get dope sick or do too much. So here I am holding it. I watched her use needles forever, and I was so disgusted by it. Before you know it, one day I'm like sneaking off in the bathroom. I'm doing a little bit of heroin, snorting. The boosting just caught up to us. Her car broke down. Now we're taking buses to boost. I didn't boost because I look like I'm committing a crime anywhere I go. At the time, I take pride in looking like this now, but I definitely am not doing anything wrong ever again. So it got to the point one day she got drugs. We were in Hollywood. And she woke up in the morning and she was so sick. We were on Federal Highway. Mm-hmm. She couldn't even get up to get drugs. So we ended up at Young Circle Park. And I didn't know what to do. Because I mean, my mom, nobody in my family would talk to me at the time. So I called somebody that I knew owed me a favor. He came, picked us up, and he knew what it was like to be dope sick. Mm-hmm. So he got my girlfriend a Dilaudid so she wasn't sick. Mind you, this guy was on Suboxone maintenance, but he had a box of syringes in the back of his truck. So he was shooting Suboxone or Subutex, whatever the fuck he was doing, but he was also shooting Molly. So we ended up in a hotel that night, and I watched him shoot Molly, and I watched my girl with needles forever, and I was like, that's fucking this. I can't do it. Oh God, I can't. And then I see my friend, like a second person around me, other than my girlfriend, do needles for the first time ever, and I was like, damn, I kind of want to try that. And I talked to my girl. I was like, can you do that for me? And she did it, and I wasn't hooked then, but like that night, I did some heroin to come down, and then the next day when we were sober, my girlfriend went to go get heroin so she could not be dope sick. We were in my buddy's 2-seater truck. She was in the middle, and she got the heroin. And I was like, let me try a little bit. And she did a shot, and I was like, I was laid over, like in her lap, knocked out. And I really wanted to get her. I wasn't obsessed yet. I wanted to get her sober. And my buddy was a fisherman. He's won fishing championships all over the world, or all over South Florida. He's got dock records in the Keys. So he got a job down in Key Largo, and we had nowhere to go. She had a warrant out for arrest, and like, I was my girlfriend. Like, I really had nothing going on at the time. I was like, fuck it, let's go down there. We got a bunch of Suboxone, so we went down there for her to try to get away from this. And we got down there, and
it's wild down there.
Well, it's crazy.
It's different.
Well, the funny thing is, he was fishing in Key Largo, but we were driving to Florida City every night and get a hotel. And like, when I say like $20 a night hotels, like where no person should be. And one day we're at a Publix in Key Largo, and me and my girlfriend, I don't even know what we were arguing about. We were outside the car in front of Publix, and we were arguing, and somebody called the police, and they came and they ran her name, and she was gone. My buddy, he had kind of been good since we'd been down in Key Largo just with the Suboxone or whatever. And we drove back to Florida City, and we got to the hotel, and there was like a black dude and a white girl sitting on the front of the hotel. He's like, hey, he's like, go see if you can get me some crack. And I was like, what? I was like, fuck no. He's like, bro, I'll buy you some spice. I was like, all right, I got you. I went, I was like, yo, you got a dub? I'm like, yeah, we got it. So now now we're in the fucking hotel room, and I had never smoked crack, and he's in there smoking crack, and then I'm in there smoking spice. And he made good money every day, but like, when you're an addict, you run through that in a couple hours. So that night, the next day he went fishing, made a couple $100. We get back to the hotel. He got one guy he's buying crack from on this side. He's buying cocaine from this guy in this hotel room. And he's fucking smoking crack. He came to me and he's like, here, try this. And he was really, most people who are in active addiction or using are stingy. They're stingy with their dope. But he was on another level. So he's like,
I never give nobody a hit of crack.
Well, I mean, that's fair. That's fair. If I told you, I'm going to tell you, this is wild what happened down there. So he gave me a little shot of cocaine, and I didn't feel shit. I was like, oh, what the fuck, whatever. So he like borrowed dope from this guy. He's like, yo, give me a 40. I'm going to pay you 80 tomorrow. And same thing with this guy with the crack. He's like, give me an 8-ball. I'm going to pay you double tomorrow. It started. So we went back there. He did it. The next night it was good. The next night he paid. He came back. He paid his debt, and then he did it again that night. That night it was only crack. He loved smoking crack. I was like, "Can you shoot it?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, so let's try that." And I couldn't shoot myself at the time, so he broke it down for me, and
like vinegar, lemon juice.
Yeah, he broke it down and he shot me up, and I literally threw up instantly. And I turned into an addict. I just wanted more. Like, I was obsessed.
That was your first time doing uppers, or that was your first time?
Well, I had snorted a little cocaine here and there, and I shot Molly like a couple weeks before that. Shooting crack, literally, it brought me to my knees then and there, and I was done forever. To the point where, like I said, like, I sold drugs, and obviously I was at a point in my life when I was with my girlfriend that I had never been at that low. She was boosting, and like, it wasn't a thing to me. Here I am. I did one shot of crack. The next day when he was at work, I was driving around in his truck asking, because the guy in the hotel room would sell nickels of crack, and I was riding around Florida City asking people for $1. I need $1 for gas. I need $1 for, and I would get $5, and I'd wake them up, and I was like, yo, let me get a nickel. he came back one day. Oh my God, this is a wild. This story is so real to me. Him and I, so that night he came back, whatever. I'd probably been up for like 2 or 3 days shooting crack and Molly. And we were in the hotel room. It's so crazy how real this still feels like it actually happened. Well, to me it did. So we're in the hotel room. I was like, yo, let's go take me to the store so I can get a wrap. And I was gonna smoke some spice. And he's in the bathroom. He didn't even he was smoking on a can in the bathroom. So he takes me, I don't know if anybody in South Florida has been down to the Keys. Anybody know the racetrack right before you get on the stretch to go to that racetrack right there? We were staying in the hood right there. So we ended up at that racetrack to take me to get a wrap. So we get there.
Is the one with the Starbucks not too far from there?
That I don't remember.
Okay.
It's literally this racetrack right before you get on the
that 2-lane road.
Correct.
Yeah.
I was like, go inside, get me a wrap. And he's like, I'm going to grab a couple donuts. So I'm in the passenger seat. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, where the fuck is he? Forever. So I walk in the fucking racetrack. Where you seen this dude? He's fucking getting a wrap, and he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I'm looking around for him, going crazy. I'm like, what he fucking left me with his car? So I get back to the car and I start his car and I drive back to the fucking hotel room and I'm trying to find the key. I can't get in. I start banging on the door. Open the fucking door. You fucking left me at the racetrack. He opens the door and I'm like, he's like, what the fuck do you mean? I was like, I've been in the bathroom smoking crack the whole time. I literally
thought that he was with you. Oh my God.
No, I thought he drove me there. Like to this day, I remember him driving me there. Like crazy.
Oh my God.
So, make a long story short, it was just like crazy. Like he would call his mom and tell, because his mom and my mom to this day are still friends.
Wow.
And I pray for that kid still today. But anyways, he would call his mom and be like, yo, Shane's got a job and he needs money for clothes. And I think we got to find a place to live. So that's his mom could convince my mom to send us some money, blah, blah, blah. And then one day, like we were running short on money and drugs and we started arguing. And his dad lived in Key Largo. So one day, like I said, he would go on the boat and I would literally like sit in his truck and like try to drive back to Florida City and either get high. But this one day I was just like so drained. I just literally just stayed in the parking lot in his truck. And his dad came to the parking lot and he's like, I'm going to give you $100 and I'm going to drive you back to Fort Lauderdale. Do you have somewhere to go? I was like, yeah, let's go. $100, let's go. So I called my boy Mike, who I knew no matter what, like he would open his door for me. So we get back to Broward and, he sold pills and he had really good coke at the time. And he was friends with all of us. We all grew up in the same neighborhood. But he didn't realize
how bad you were.
Correct. And I didn't want him knowing I was shooting.
Yeah.
I was really big on, like, he had good coke. I'd buy some good coke from him. I called my Molly guy. I don't know if anybody's from around here. There's in Oakland Park East, there used to be a Kmart in Wilton Manors. My buddy lived on the other side of the bridge there. So I went to go meet the Molly guy at the Kmart. So I got the Molly. I went in the bathroom and I sat in, it was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I did a shot of Molly in the bathroom, but it wasn't Molly, it was meth. I was like literally, I did not move for
stuck.
I could not move. By the time I got the energy to stand up and walk out of the stall, Kmart was closing. And crazy. So I walked back and like you could see like meth mouth. And it's the first time I ever did it, like my jaw's all tightened up. I knocked on the door, my boy opened the door. He's like, where the fuck have you been? I was like, I got that Molly. He looked at me, he's like, bro, if that's Molly, I don't want that shit. And he let me in the house. He was still like in the light. He went to Scarlett's, whatever. But I just wanted to sit in his house and get high when he was there or when he wasn't there.
Yeah.
Better when he left because I was to my own. I didn't have to worry about him seeing me or sneaking off into the bathroom. He went to Scarlett's one night and I got all fucked up on Xanax. And this is like the one time I could say that I stole from my family. I robbed other people. I never really stole from my friends. Went to Scarlett's and I got into his bottle of blues. and it was like 20 blues I kept. I literally probably did 10 of them that night.
Mm-hmm.
And he came back, and I was so ashamed. He's like, "Where's my shit?" I don't know, but he woke up in the morning and realized that. I was like, I don't remember, but I was the only one here, so it had to have been me.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, but I'll pay you back. I literally would. I called my mom. I was like, Mom, I need some money. He knew that it wasn't. The fucked up thing about it, we've been friends for like 15 years, and he loses he's a pothead. He lost everything. So anytime he couldn't find $1, he's like, "You're in my shit." I was like, "No, I swear to God, I'm not stealing your shit." So I still had the meth, and another friend that we had grew up with before.
Were they in capsules, or it was just straight rock?
It was in capsules.
Okay.
Yeah. No. I'm sorry. It was a bag. Yeah. Because I was buying like 8s and 8 balls and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but all that shit looks the same.
Yeah.
So so before I came back to Broward, somebody else that we grew up with, who we all thought were friends, was living with him, and he was an addict, and he was all fucked up. And one day when my buddy Mike, this was before I came back to Broward, this kid broke into his house and stole all his guns, money, drugs, anything that he could get. Mm-hmm. My boy went to the gym one day, and as soon as he left, I did a shot of the Molly. Yeah. I immediately started geeking out. I'm looking out the windows. I called him. I'm like, "Yo, where's the gun?" All right, excuse my Mike's outside. So he's like, "What do you mean? Are you sure?" I ran outside with my shirt off, and I'm like, and I lived in Wilton Manors, and everybody's like, what the fuck is wrong with you?" I was like, "Where is he? Did you see him out here?" They're like, "There's nobody out here."
Wow. So
my buddy came back. He's like, "Are you sure he was here?" I was like, I swear it was him. I swear. And then my buddy was he was going to Dominican Republic on vacation. He always would go there. He was obsessed with the island and the women. So I got some money from my mother. She sent me like $220. Mm-hmm. And he was going for 2 weeks. And I knew it had to last me. Food and everything. And I bought all drugs with it. That morning, it's crazy because he knew, like, at the point, he maybe didn't realize how bad I was, but he knew I was bad. And he's like, "Listen," I bought cocaine from him and I bought some blues from him. He's like, "Listen, just when I try not to do all my cocaine," because he was leaving it in the house. He's like, "Don't go through all of it, please." He wasn't gone for 1 hour. I had no money. Like, I got, right before I left, I walked to 7-Eleven. I got one hot dog, and that one hot dog had to last me 2 weeks. He had left to the airport within a matter of 2 hours. I was out of cocaine and blues, and I was into his stash. Mm-hmm. Backtrack, before I went to the Key Largo, like, I started doing, my girlfriend, we were boosting. We met some kid, and his father had passed away, and he was on drugs also. So we were writing checks out of his dad's bank account, and we were cashing them at check cashing stores. He was giving them to us. We were all doing it together and getting high together. Something I had never done, no shit like that before. So we were cashing checks. That day, after I was out of drugs, like 2:00 in the afternoon, I got a call from the Sunrise Police Department, and they're like, "Hey, we want to talk to you." I was like, I don't know because anytime prior to me be upset in drugs, I was like, "Fuck no." And I'm like, "I didn't do anything wrong. I couldn't." He's like, "We just want to talk to you about, what's his name, cashing bad checks with his dad." I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay." They pick me up. We're in the Taco Bell parking lot in Oakland Park, right across the street from where the Kmart is. And they talked to me for like 5 minutes, like, "You're under arrest." I was like, "Oh, great." So now that
was easy for them.
Yeah, I was like, so I violated probation with a new charge of check fraud, mail wire fraud, or something like that. Uttering a forged instrument. I'm in the Broward County Jail, and I'm not feeling good. I have a fever. I'm in the main jail, and I don't know if anybody's been in the main jail, but nobody gives a fuck. First of all, everybody's in there crying like, "Oh, I want to use a phone," or I'm sick and I need medicine. And I was really sick. And I'm beating on the door. I'm like, "Man, I got a fucking fever." "Oh, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine." So that morning they were giving me medicine because obviously I was coming off a drug. I was on Ativan or whatever stuff they gave you. And I told the lady, I'm like, listen, I'm warm. Can you take my temperature? She took my temperature at 104 fever.
Mm.
And they're like, well, you got a fever, but you're going to the Conti. So pack your shit. So they took me to the Conti. I couldn't get out of bed. I got to the Conti. I'm on the second floor. I wouldn't get up for food. And I put in a sick call request. I'm not doing well. They took me to do a blood work. And when they did blood work, they were taking blood out of my arm and an abscess popped up right here. And they're like, you're not in good shape. They're like, they took me to the North Broward jail because there's an infirmary there. So they did an x-ray on my chest. I'll never forget. It was, I was in the county jail in the infirmary. I woke up, it was my mom's birthday. They did an x-ray on my chest and they gave me a Vicodin in jail because something wasn't right. I called and I was like, Mom, I'm really not feeling good. I'm going to go lay down. Happy birthday. So I go and lay down. 5 minutes later, they pull up with the stretcher and they rush me to North Broward Jail in Pompano. North Broward Hospital in Pompano. They do an x-ray and they do a CAT scan on me. And they gave me, like, I first got there, they gave me morphine and Dilaudid because something wasn't right. I had an abscess on my heart growing into my neck.
Wow.
And I had a abscess in my lung.
It's so crazy they caught that because so many times they're like, yeah, whatever, you're just sick.
Yeah, well, long story short, they take me upstairs. The next morning, they take me downstairs. They stuck I think it was doing a CAT scan, but they had to stick a wire in
the heart, right?
Not into my chest, down into my lung to get the pus out. So the doctor's like, listen, I'm gonna be very honest with you. You're lucky that they brought you to the hospital today. So what happened was, they're lucky they brought you to the hospital today because if you didn't, the infection would have gotten in your blood and you would have died from cardiac arrest. So here I am, he stuck a wire in my chest and there's like a plastic accordion and I'm pumping pus out of my lungs.
They're telling you you're pumping it?
They stuck it in. Well, first he like had one of those big like giant syringes, not with a needle on it, but like and it's all
like a plunger.
All pus. Like this long, 6 feet filled with pus. And for the next 2-3 days, I'm like pumping pus out of my chest. So I don't know if anybody knows what they make cocaine and crack, but it's not very clean stuff. So like if you start missing that stuff into your vein and it gets in your body, it can cause infection. And that's exactly what happened. So I had an abscess in my lung and I had an abscess in my heart growing into my neck. So the next morning that it got the thing. So I'm pumping the pus out for the first day. And the next morning they put me to sleep and they like put a camera down my throat so they could see what's going on in my neck and my heart. I was in the hospital, technically in jail, but in hospital, chained to a bed with a
they really handcuff you to the bed, right?
Well, by my foot.
By your foot?
Yeah. So I'm in the hospital. It was the best month in jail ever because I was at a real hospital. All the nurses were bringing me real food. I had my own personal TV.
Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah. But they had to give me a PICC line, really strong antibiotics. So I was on antibiotics for like 8 weeks. So I went to...
Wow, 8 weeks. That's wild.
Well, so during all that time, I went to court. So I went back to the North Broward jail. I was there for a month. Went back to jail, and they had me on a PICC line. And in that time period, I copped out to... my lawyer, I was like, listen, I was ready... With my record, I was ready to just take 8 years. Because I have scored out this between home invasions and 2 trafficking charges. I had a pretty extensive... I had a lot of points. So I was like, man, I was ready to just take 6 or 7, 8 years at this point because I thought with my violation I was going to be looking at like 10, 12. So my lawyer happened to know the prosecutor, and he's like, he told the prosecutor, he's like, listen, throughout his violation of probation and score him on the new charge. If he scores out to 24 months, give him 18. He scored me out to 24 months there. I copped out to 18 months. And I was like, oh my God, let's go. I went to prison. Well, the first like 3 weeks of being in prison, I was in the infirmary because I was under, I had antibiotics in my arm. And then they put me on the compound and backtrack. I was in the infirmary. I ended up on the compound. And in this time process, my daughters my mom was a lot to deal with. My daughter's mother was going through a lot of personal stuff, and she had another baby. And right before I went away, she picked up, like my daughter's mother got up to leave Florida to run from her problems. Obviously, she took her problems with her. She didn't tell my mom where she went. So my mom had to hire a private investigator to track my daughter down in Minnesota. So we were dealing with all this while I was in prison. The obsession of using was still fresh in I literally like almost died. And the obsession to the point where like when I was in the infirmary, I had a PICC line in my arm. And if I could get like suck alcohol out of those pads and like shoot it into my thing.
You would?
I would try.
Oh my God.
Like that's like how obsessed I know. Well, alcohol in the bloodstream can get, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, but that's the obsession. That's where the obsession was. I go away and I ended up in Madison, Florida, up north, and they found my daughter. My mom hired a lawyer, and mind you, I've always had like wherever I went, I'm very thankful no matter where I went in prison. I got into a lot of shit. I did a lot of shit into circumstances, live in the jungle, act like an animal. Not proud of it. But wherever I went, like I can get anything from like my face was good. Like people would be like, hey, give me $200 worth of drugs. My mom was going to make sure the money gets there. So I could always get high no matter what. If there was drugs in the compound, I was getting high. It's a fact. And I was the first person they would come to. And they had like,
what kind of drugs are they bringing in?
I mean, any pill, you could literally just get anything. You can get women if you got money. I mean, literally, it's really.
How do you get women in prison?
I mean, the guards will fuck for money.
That's crazy.
It's really where I am now to this day. I wish that they did more in the prison systems to actually help rehabilitate people. Because you get in there, and if you don't really want to do anything to help yourself, you're just going to get worse. Yeah, and you're going to learn to be, or some people pick up traits, but it's a bunch of disgust. There's some really great people I've met, and there's the worst of the worst. I remember there were NA and AA meetings in there, and I didn't want any part. I really didn't know what. I always heard them call for it. I never knew anything.
You never even went?
I never knew anything about recovery at the time.
But you never even went?
No, never.
Wow.
No, it's never. It wasn't
so crazy.
It wasn't. I wanted nothing to do with. I wanted to get high. I had drugs. I wanted to get high. I was gonna go smoke that night. Yeah. And the shit that they had is crazy because the spice that they had, I don't know what they would do to it or what they put in it. But you could you could take one hit of this stuff and you literally left the planet. No. I'm not. No, you literally would. You did not know where you were. Wow. And it's scary because you got guards around, and if you're out of it, they're gonna
be like, "What's up?
What's up?" They tracked down. They hired a lawyer. This fucking lawyer got my mom. They set trial 2 weeks before I get out of prison. Instead of waiting 2 weeks for me to be out of prison so I could be present for a custody hearing. And they awarded us shared custody. So we have shared custody, but my daughter's primary residence is in.
It's pretty rare because you're in prison, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my mother and stuff like that. I gave them no reason. I mean, except that I wasn't there, but they were still giving me opportunity to be her father or to be around her. I never did anything negligent to her. Yeah. I might not have always been emotionally there when I was using, but my daughter's always been my heart and soul. And to this day, it's greater than it's ever been. So I get out of prison. It was summertime, 2015. My mom came pick me up, and we went to Orlando for the weekend. We had a great time. We came back, and I had an apartment in North Miami Beach that she had set me up in. I started like getting high a little bit when she was home, when she was there for the summer. When she left to go back to Minnesota, I had a nervous breakdown. I was in Hollywood looking for drugs. So I was in the hood in Hollywood, and I met some streetwalker. She looked like she did drugs. Tried to give her $100 for some heroin, and she gave me Compact. And
did you shoot it up?
No. I knew once she gave it to me and she like ran off.
You knew that it was bad.
And I was like, I still had money in my pocket. I was like, just take it as a loss because you end up killing it or dragging this girl for no. Didn't need to make it worse than it was. So I drove to North Lauderdale, where I knew somebody I can get some drugs from. Make a long story short, is some girl that I knew from my ex-girlfriend her like cousin happened to this guy Shorty, got rest his soul. He just passed. He overdosed like 8 months ago.
Wow.
So he got me some crack and some heroin or blues, one of the two, I don't remember. So we were like getting high for a couple days, and then he couldn't get any more crack. But Flocka was a thing.
Is your first time seeing it?
Well, at the time, I guess it was like 2015. I don't know when it came around, but I was gone, I guess maybe when it first hit the streets. So he came around and he got me some Flocka, and I started shooting Flocka. I was up for a week. Oh, man, it's so crazy.
They say it's like meth and acid.
100% is. When I'm talking about, this is July, August. So August to November, I started shooting Flocka. I was so out of control. I would be literally like weeks and weeks. For 4 months of running on Flocka, I probably slept 10 days in 4 months. Like I would be up for a week, 2 weeks straight. And like the amount of delusion state I was in, it's mind boggling. To this day, I can't separate reality from what wasn't, because some of it seems so real. So I had a place in North Miami Beach. So one night I was there. I finally fell asleep, and I wake up and I hear fucking banging on my door. I'm like, what the fuck? And I look outside. It's my fucking mom with like the police, and I fucking locked the door. And they had the key from the association landlord to let them in. They came and they Baker acted me. They took me to Aventura Hospital. I spent a week in there detoxing. They let me out on September 16th, the day before my birthday, 2015. And they let me out, and my mom wouldn't take none of my calls. I had a suitcase of everything that I owned. And I was walking the streets of Hollywood. It started raining that night. I was walking the streets, and I was like, man, I don't know I didn't know what to do. The only thing I knew what to do is finally, I slept like in the hood, under like a apartment building overhead. And then when it started to get, the rain settled down, I got on a bus and I went back to North Lauderdale, where I knew I could get high. At first I went there, my intention wasn't to get high. I wanted to get a hotel room and take a shower and relax. And I was calling my family. I was like, please let me get $100. I just want to get a hotel. And everybody in my family, I call my grandfather. I can't. He's like, your father doesn't want nothing to do with you. I can't do it. My mom, she's like, you're fucked. I called our friend. Anytime I was like, I know I call him and he'll look out. And this was before he even knew how bad I had really ever gotten. And he's like, Shane, I can't do it, man. I just got too much stuff going on and I can't do it. And now I know why he did it.
Were you like resentful and angry? Like, what were you feeling? Were you like, dude, I get it?
No, well, at the time, I just was like, I'm just trying to find money. I wasn't even mad. I just wanted to find money for a hotel. Well, at that time, I called him. I wasn't looking on my birthday. I didn't call him. I called him other times when I was just trying to get high. So I called my buddy Jeff from the strip club, and he's like, I'm not at the club, but you can go there and tell Daryl to get some money out the safe for you, and I'll just replace it tomorrow. I was like, bet. I took a cab. I didn't have money to get in the cab, so I knew I was going to get money to pay for the cab when I got there. And as soon as I got the money, the thought of taking a shower and getting a hotel room was out of the window. I got high.
It's crazy how like just the money hitting your hand alters your mind.
Every single time.
Because like sometimes when kids are like, oh, I don't want to get high. I'm like, like you don't understand what's going to happen in the next scenario when you're put in the right position. It's like, I don't want to eat pizza right now, but if a motherfucker walked in with some pizza, I might want to eat some pizza. You know what I mean? So it's like how you're feeling right now is not how you're going to be feeling when you walk out that door, when that money hits your hand, when your girl breaks up with you. So that's why I always try to reiterate, like preparing for the storm before the storm, because you don't know how that situation is going to affect your mind or mood until the rubber hits the road.
And that's how the 12-step program, it helped me identify negative behavior. I always had a bad temper. I kind of catch myself nowadays. So I'm getting high that night. Things were happening. I had nowhere to go. The people whose house, the people whose house I was getting high at, I wasn't allowed in the house. I was only allowed to get high outside because I was friends with the family. I was friends with the people who lived in the house family. So we were only like get high on the back patio or the front of the house. I had nowhere to go, and I'm walking down 441 with a suitcase, and I'll never forget this person. I wish I could find this person to this day. I was walking down 441 in North Lauderdale, and I called our friend's mother at the time, and I was like, "Can I please just come? I don't want to be on the street. I don't want to get high off this shit anymore." She's like, yeah, come.
Of course.
And I'm walking down the street. I have no idea. And I'm in North Lauderdale. This is Weston, and I'm walking. I have no idea how I'm going to get there. I'm dragging this fucking suitcase down 441, and some random guy just pulls. He knew I needed help. And he's like, are you okay? He's like, where you got to go? I was like, I need a ride to my friend's house. I need a ride to a friend so I have somewhere to go. He's like, yeah, come on, get in. Drove me there, took me to CVS, got me deodorant, toothpaste, toothbrush. I couldn't even tell you his name. I couldn't spot him.
Just a random dude.
Couldn't spot him from a mile away if he walked past me or brushed my shoulders. I wish I could. So I went there and I was like, yeah, I'm going to get sober, or I'm going to stay sober. But sober to me was not being sober. It was just not doing the shit that was shooting flocka or
drinking and smoking weed.
Yes, that's normal. Or popping a Xanax to relax. That's fine. Smoking a little weed. It's cool. And our friend's sister was living there at the time, and she was trying to stay straight. And she knew what recovery was, and I didn't. But you're gonna take a Xanax? I was like, yeah, whatever. I was always close with my mother and my grandmother, and my grandmother lived in East Fort Lauderdale. I told my Nana, I was like, Nana, I've been clean for a week or two. I was like, I want to get a job. I want to come out there. And she's like, you can come stay with me. My mother is in the clothing business, and when I was all fucked up, she would give me clothes, and she was like, go sell. Stop fucking asking me for money. Just go sell this shit and get out of my face. I would go to beauty salons and
so your grandma sold clothes, or your mom? My
mom would give them to me so I could leave her the fuck alone. When I was like on the flock, this was actually after I ended up at the swap shop. I went to my grandma's, and my mom gave me a bunch of clothes, and my grandma's a fucking G. She got up with me. She's like, we're gonna go to the swap shop, we're gonna sell these fucking clothes. She got up with me at 4:00 in the morning, went out to the swap shop, set up outside. We sold enough clothes, and I could buy a fucking $500 car, or I made like $700-800 within a couple hours. My grandma helped me sell those and buy a van, like $500 or $600. It was a hoopty, but it was a car. And now I can go look for a job. And then I had some money, and I was in her house, and I had a girl come over, and I had the car, and I went and applied to the job, and I got hired at this like wood making place. And I was starting the next morning. This girl came over, and I ended up getting flocka and getting high all night and not making it to work. I hid it for a couple days. And then she realized it, and she's like, you gotta get the fuck out of my house. Everything I owned was in this van. I would go to the swap shop and sell clothes so I had enough money to get high or to find a hotel room. It was crazy because I was up for days, and I'd be at the swap shop, and everybody's like, $1, and everybody's reaching for shit too. And I'm thinking everybody's stealing stuff, and I'm like, one day I fucking... Like, everybody stepped the fuck back. Stop dealing my shit. I flipped all my shit over. I was like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. I got in. I've been up for days, delusional as fuck. I get in the car, and I still to this day think that my mom hired a private investigator and was my mom told me that she was watching me, but she wouldn't tell me to the extent because she was scared that I was going to kill myself, and she had every right to think that way. So I like packed all my shit, and I'm fucking driving. I bought a bunch of fucking flocka, and I would get a hotel room. My mom, she would like pay for a hotel room for me, and I was getting high in hotel rooms all over Broward, and every time I would get thrown out of it. So I was so fucking delusional. I had like an 8-ball of flocka, and I felt like I was being followed. I swallowed 8-ball of flocka. Wow. But in a bag.
But still.
No. Well, what happened was it's over a period of time. It was breaking. The bag opened, and it was breaking up in me, and I kept getting higher and higher and higher. And I still wanted to find flocka to shoot.
Wow.
But I didn't realize that I was still getting high. I was just so fucked up.
Yeah.
And I was out of my mind. But I had no clothes left to sell. I had no money. And I'm in this fucking van with everything I have in me. I swallowed my drugs. And I was on 441 at this gas station. I was in this car. I was in my car looking. I had to have been looking for drugs, but there's no fucking drugs on the floor for hours. Just sitting there looking. The sun didn't come up yet. I walk up to the night window because you weren't allowed in the store at night.
Mm-hmm.
The guy, I really didn't have gas in the car to drive anywhere. I walked up to the window, and the guy who I work in the night, he tried to put a bottle of water for me under the thing. And I was like, I don't fucking want water. I was like, put some gas in my car. and I was like, no. So I went back to the front, and I'm like, fucking still looking for shit. Fucked up out of my mind. The sun comes up. The police show up, and they're like, you all right? All fucked up on flock. My jaw's all fucked up. And they're like, you all right? I was like, yeah, I just didn't take my psych medication. And he was like, yeah, okay. Uh-huh. He went and bought me they were nice guys. He went and bought me a cup of coffee. And so this van, I never registered it. I didn't have insurance. I had a tag from a different car. From the house that I was getting high at, they gave me a tag from a different car. So the only proof that I owned that car was the tag. I mean, the title. Mm-hmm. That title was in that car. If I lose that title, there's no
proof that
I ever owned it because it's never went into the system.
Whatever, yeah.
So these fucking cops gave me my ID and the title. I was like, they were towing it. And I was like, no. Leave everything in the car. And they're like, no, you take it. I was like, no, because if I'm thinking to myself, if they tow it and it goes to the tow truck company, when I get there, I could show that it's mine. Mm-hmm. They gave it to me. And I was like, the fuck? I'm walking in like Lauderdale Lakes up and down 441. And I'm like trying to get somebody to let me use a phone to call my mom. And somebody thought I was a fucking peeping Tom. Mm-hmm. And they called the police, and they seen I was all fucked up. I was like, take me to the fucking hospital. I'm not feeling good. They're like, listen, if we take you to the hospital, you're going to jail. I was like, I'm fine. So they let me. They're like, get the fuck out of here. So I ended up on Oakland Park Flea Market on Oakland Park. Mm-hmm. I was so fucking high. I was delusional. I thought that my ex-girlfriend from the past was in this office building. So I'm walking in the office building, like looking for her in rooms.
This is during the day?
During the day. And I'm fucking checking people. I don't know what I was thinking. I was checking people's mail, thinking I'm going to fucking find like money. Like, you know, it's illegal to take people's mail. Mm-hmm. And I'm just taking mail out of mailboxes in the office building. I was on the northeast corner of Oakland Park and wherever the flea market, the building in the flea market, across from the flea market. And BSO rolled up on me. And they're like, get in the car. I was like, why? They're like, we're driving you out of our city. And I was like, okay. So they drove me to Commercial Boulevard.
It's pretty nice of them.
Yeah, for sure. So now I'm walking. There's a shopping plaza where there's a Winn-Dixie, and across the street, somebody gave me like $5. And I walked into a bar there and I got a fucking whiskey. Mm-hmm. And then I walked across the street and I was looking to take a shower. Mm-hmm. And there's a mobile home park there where there's like mobile homes. And I was like, can I take a shower? And they're like, everybody in this whole mobile home park shares one shower. You can't shower here. So I'm like, okay. So I keep walking. I cross over and there's a Bank of America right there. And I'm standing at the Bank of America. Some guy was getting money out the ATM and I'm thinking like I literally thought like money was just going to fly out into my hand. I ended up, I think it's an extended stay right there. I think it's extended stay or La Quinta. Mm-hmm. I walked into the neighborhood and I seen this girl. She had a garbage bag and she was folding clothes. And I thought, those are my clothes that were in my car. Now, mind you, when the cops towed my car, everything I owned was in that car. Mm-hmm. Everything that I had left to my name. Like other than like some stuff my parents might have had over the years, but like pictures and every piece of clothing I had. I seen the girl and I was like, that's mine. So I walked upstairs and I'm like, I'm going to take a shower. And I just walked into her hotel room where she got the door open, folding clothes. And I took a long fucking hot shower.
Wow.
And I walk out.
What did she say?
I walked out butt ass naked. And she's like, I have something for your fucking ass. Next thing I knew, 2 BSO cops. I'm standing there butt ass fucking naked.
Oh my God.
Cops. And I'm like, something in my mind. It was like a video game to me. I fucking like charged at the police. And they beat the shit out of me. They drag me, and to this day, oh man, with my fucking record, I don't know how I didn't end up in jail that night. Anyways,
they didn't send you to jail?
So they beat me up. They threw me in the back of a cop car, butt naked, legs ass up in the air. Everybody in the hotel's videotaping me.
Have you seen this video?
No, I looked, because when I first got sober, I started working in a call room and there was like an IT girl and I kind of like told them briefly my story. And she was like looking on the internet because all that flock of shit was happening all over the news. We never found it.
Thank God.
But I was in the back. Then the ambulance came. They threw me in the back of the ambulance. I'm like, can you fucking lower these? I'm loosening these fucking cups. I had like 104.5, 105 fever, not realizing how fucked up I was. They get me to the fucking hospital. Every fucking BSO in Tamarack was there in the hospital and out of control. I was saying a lot of vulgar shit to the nurses in there I shouldn't have been saying. They gave me something. They put me to sleep. I woke up in a hospital bed in a room. Obviously, they had me on like watch. But like the lady that was in my room, I thought, like I told you, like I had this obsession that I had a private investigator. My mom was following me everywhere. So I was like, I know what you're here for. I know why you're here.
Oh my God.
And I called my mom, and after 24 hours, they brought me upstairs to the psych unit. And well, my mom came and saw me. Then the next day, they took me upstairs, and I can't really remember exactly how many days I was up there, but I talked to the doctor. Well, first of all, I called my ex-girlfriend who I thought was in the office building. And I was like, everything. She's like, she's like, I've never heard you like this, Shane. Are you okay? She's like, okay, Shane, I believe you. I believe you. And she's like, I just hope that you're going to be okay. I was like, okay. I'm like obsessing that I saw her there. And then I spoke to the doctor. He's like, we're going to let you out tomorrow. I called my mom. I was like, Mom, they're going to let me out tomorrow. And she's like, I'm not fucking coming to get you unless you get help. And I was like, well, fuck you and fuck everybody in here. And I started fighting with all the hot people in the hospital, and they gave me, I guess, a Thorazine shot. I slept for like 24 hours. And I woke up and I was like, maybe I need to try to get a little bit of help. And I didn't have any insurance. My mom was going to pay for me to go to outpatient. And I got there. First that night, I got out that night. My mom the guy who was supposed to intake me at the outpatient, he didn't stay there. My mom was pissed because she had to give me a hotel and she was scared that I was going to end up in the streets again, disappear. And she had every right to be scared. She's like, my son might be dead and you're fucking leaving. Let's get him in there. So she had to give me a hotel room in Hollywood that night. It's so crazy. That night I went and showered. I went in the pool and I relaxed. And I just was like, I think I'm going to try to just chill. That next morning, that morning, my mom took me to get a license. I was reaching in my mom's purse looking for pills to take that morning before we went to the outpatient. I went to the hospital, went out a piece of underwear on I had nothing. They had to give me, when I left the hospital, they had to give me a t-shirt and like shorts to leave in. So my mom took me to Foot Locker. She got me some shorts, some clothes, some shoes, some white t-shirts.
How old are you at this point?
So this was 6 years ago. So I'm 30. I was 30 years old. November 2015. That morning, she took me, and I was like looking for pills in her stuff, and we got to the IOP, and it was a rehab. They had inpatient, outpatient, and they got there and they drug tested me, and they're like, "You need to go to a hospital and get stabilized." I had every drug you can imagine in my system, so they took me to the hospital. I stayed there for a couple days, and they scholarshiped me for a week inpatient, and I always had this walk in the room. You have to be the toughest guy in the room. You can't show fear. You can't show emotion. It's a sign of weakness, especially in some of the places I've been. I feel like it was something that I had to carry around. And then I'm in these group fucking meetings and I'm talking about shit I never talked about. I was a fucking emotion. I started crying. I had all these feelings I haven't felt in years, probably since I was a kid. My week was up. And they're like, okay, Shane, it's time for you to go.
It's crazy, 1 week.
And I was like, I'm not ready to go. And they're like, all right, you can stay for another week. My 1 week, I got out the day before Thanksgiving, 2015. I had been sober 2 weeks.
Wow.
2 weeks. And I called my mom. I was like, did you hook up my phone, my number? She's like, I got you a fucking new phone number. Are you crazy? And I was under the impression, so my buddy Jeff with the strip club, he was opening a strip club. And he's like, I want you to run my club. You're the boss. And I was like getting out of rehab, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go run a strip club. And everybody was like, are you fucking crazy? And I was like, yeah.
It's gonna be great. What could go wrong?
Nothing at all. My mom told me she got me a new number, and I was like, why? And she's like, you don't need all the fucking numbers. I was like, okay, you're right. That's fine. I mean, in reality, like living in Florida, I can find anything I want at any time. But it
Anyways.
makes it a lot easier
Mm-hmm.
because they say don't go back home or try to stay away from things that,
Mm-hmm.
that brought you into that lifestyle. And it really is.
Mm-hmm. And like all that, like a lot of times people think that like, oh, this doesn't matter, that doesn't matter. It all adds up. So it's like, what I always tell people is like, oh, do I have to do IOP? Do I have to do this? It's like, look, if you're going to war, you can go with a handgun, you go with a spoon, you go to AK-47. But it's like the more shit you have, the more prepared you're going to be.
100%.
I'm not saying that if you do X, Y, and Z, you're going to 100% succeed, but you're giving yourself that little bit. So it's like, if you already know what you're facing and you've already failed so many times, why not just wait until you have it all?
I agree 100%. Got me a place. I went into IOP. I was, doing I was going to meeting. Well, actually, I'll never forget the first day I was getting out. I'm sorry, treatment going to IOP. The guy who ran the rehab, he's like, I got Comcast coming today at 5:00. Just make sure you're there. I was like, I'm going to a fucking meeting. Mm-hmm. And the girl she ran the IOP and the rehab, or she worked at the rehab. And she's like, that kid's going to a meeting. He wants to go to a meeting. Let him go to a meeting. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget. So I had been sober for 2 weeks. I had been going to meetings, obviously, in rehab. I listened in the meetings. I was that guy, like, in the room, like, didn't want to go get his white key chip. Mm-hmm. Right before I left, Fran looked at me and she's like, you don't ever have to pick up ever again. I went to her home group that night, which is the rehab's home group at the mm-hmm. time. They call white key tags, and she looked at me, and I got up and I got my first white key tag. Wow. Took suggestions. I didn't take suggestions, as far as like,
But wait, you've been clean since then?
I've been clean since November 8th. I think I've been clean and sober since a few days before my actual date.
But you weren't sure.
I wasn't sure. So November 8th it is, since 2015.
That's badass.
So
congrats.
Thank you. And it was a lot going through it. I had the opportunity to go work for my mother in an established business. I love my mother more than anything in the world. She has a lot of trauma from her childhood, and my mom, not intentionally, made me want to use every single day the first 18 months of my life. Mm-hmm. And my sponsor told me that, well, this was later on. He's like, if you haven't picked up yet, you'll never have to pick up again, because it's just insane. But I was going to meetings. I really hadn't started working a program. Our friend was my first sponsor.
So, just so people that are listening, working a program would imply working steps and doing service and all this stuff. So you were going to meetings, but you weren't really fully committed to the 12-step program. You kind of just were staying abstinent and socializing around positive people.
Correct. I kind of was thinking, I think I could make it without just being abstinence from the program mm-hmm. and staying away from the drugs. And then I got in a relationship with a girl who was not sober when I met her. Mm-hmm. And it was not a good idea. Well, honestly, if anybody out there is struggling, I highly suggest stay away from women for a little bit. Get comfortable being alone with yourself. Do whatever is right for you. I just would highly suggest just working on yourself first. Be comfortable being alone before you need somebody to be happy with. Mm-hmm. That's my personal opinion. So we got in a relationship with her. She would get violent, and it was just very unhealthy for me. And I just knew that I needed to remove myself from the situation. I still have love for her, and I always will. But I just knew that I needed to put myself first, because mm-hmm. I know that the way Shane used when he was broke, now I have money in my pocket, I'll be dead. I literally live by that today. Mm-hmm. I know that it's not even because of drugs. We don't know we're in the drugs anymore. I'm that guy who will lock myself in that hotel room all by myself and get high till there's no end.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, it's kind of got to be that way. Oh. If you don't look at drugs and just be to use this to die, for me to pick up a drink is just the same way as to put a gun to my head and pull the trigger. Oh. It's the same thing to me.
Yeah.
There's actually more decency in blowing my brains out as there is for me to do drugs. And whether or not some people think that's true or that's a little extreme, that's kind of what it takes to break the addict thinking. the addict thinking is like, it's just a drink. And like, it's a slippery slope for addicts, and it's easy to convince yourself it's just weed. Oh, it's just a stick of Xanax. Oh, it's just, Vyvanse or some shit.
Well, I used to be like, I don't think alcohol is a problem, but I know that I'll be high if I do drink. So it's just like, I'm not even playing those games.
I would always think that, because I used to think like, what, I'm going to have a drink and then be doing coke? Come on, like.
Those two definitely go together.
But then I was like, there's been times where like, with a couple years clean, I would go out and I'd be like in the bathroom taking a piss. And I'd be like, damn, imagine if I was drunk right now and I heard someone go,
oh, yeah,
and I'm like,
it's over with. Hey,
what you got there, buddy? You know what I mean? So like, I started to see, wow, maybe drinking could lead to other things. Now it's super obvious to me, like, no shit it is, you know? There's like that saying that people say that alcohol turns me into someone else and that other person smokes crack.
Correct. Yeah. And that's definitely the truth. Because I know, obviously I always had addict behavior, and it was like the buildup to it. And then once I found that thing that had me obsessed, like I know where it all leads to that circle, no matter what. So I was in a relationship and it wasn't healthy. I needed to get out of it. It was summertime. My daughter had just came down for the summer. I had broke up with her. It wasn't anything personal towards her. Well, but I felt empty. And I hurt this person that I cared about. And I did nothing to work on myself. I was coming up on a year, I want to say 6 months, 8 months, something like that. I wanted to get high. I laid in bed. Well, that was the first time since I had been sober that I wanted to get high. At the time, my sponsor, and it wasn't anything that my sponsor at the time didn't do. It's what I didn't do, what I didn't do. And he had a lot going on in his life. And at that time, I needed urgency. So I found another sponsor and I got to work like immediately. And I started doing some work on myself. Even I walked myself through the steps, and then, I did some work on myself. I accumulated some time. And then I wanted to allow the same person back in my life later on. It got toxic again. I wanted to get high again. And this one time, like I was in my car driving to get high. And I took a second. I'm like, Shane, you get these drugs. When they're gone, what are you going to do? And I was like, go buy some more. And I went and laid down and I slept it off. And
it's called playing the tape.
Yeah.
It's a simple trick, but it's like when you play the tape, that's what we call it. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, because we only think about that first hit. And in recovery, someone was like, it's time to start thinking about the last hit. And I remember being like, oh, damn. Like, there's a way that addicts have said things that I'm like, that shit makes sense.
And even the cliches, all the cliches,
whatever. Like, it didn't sound cliche to me because I never heard them before. But like a lot of there's things that addicts have said to me that no non-addict could ever
understand,
say in a way that hits me, where I'm like, damn, these motherfuckers are up to something, like there's something to this that these people are doing. You couldn't tell me that it wasn't working because I saw so much proof over and over. And as much as you want to talk about like the drama and like the clicks or whatever, like I knew that people in recovery and 12-step meetings were hardcore addicts, probably a lot of them worse than me. And I really believed that they were not doing any substances.
Yeah. Everybody's journey could lead to the same place. So whether my drug obsession at the time was a little bit more escalated than somebody else's, it doesn't mean that their journey is any different or any better or worse than mine. And I mean this, like every single person, whether you are an hour from the drugs or you got years from the drugs, every person that I know that's trying gives me strength every day. And that helps keep me sober also, including the 12 steps and being close to my sponsor and my friends who hold me accountable. And I'm my biggest critic to this day, every day. Like I said, like I had that persona, like I knew when I walked in the room that I had something to uphold. And now I just want to be the nicest person I possibly can be. I want to be somebody that my daughter can look up to. The 12-step program has literally helped keep me on track. It helped me identify a lot of behaviors of why I acted out in certain behaviors and what brought me to areas of my life that I should have never been in. Like when I tell you probably even 6 years ago, my whole life, anything that ever, any thought that ever came out of my brain was probably the last thing that any human being should ever do. And when I first was in rehab, there was a therapist there and he was telling us first thought wrong. now I'm at a point in my life, like, obviously I'm not perfect, but doing the wrong thing is like the furthest thing from my brain.
Mm-hmm.
And it's scary out there because some people don't get one. Their one last hit is it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reality. And obviously I wasn't in the recovery scene before I got into the program, but I never realized how many people are dropping dead every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the scariest thing in the world.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is like Russian roulette. I remember I heard the speaker once, and he was like, he's an old dope fiend. And he's like, man, when I was using dope, like nothing scared me. Like addicts weren't scared. People were dying left and right, da-da-da. He's like, today I think people are scared,
They are.
He's like, bro, I think people are scared because it's like, I know a kid who his drug of choice was powder cocaine. Good kid, probably 19 years old, came from a good family, looked like an Abercrombie model. You'll never think he had a drug program. He was clean for a couple months, was going to church, going to meetings, doing whatever he wanted to do, staying clean. He went to the gas station nearby his halfway house. Most halfways are in the hood. He got sold a bag of Coke, and this kid died, And it's like, dude, this kid died off Coke. He thought he was buying Coke. You know what I mean?
My father is one of those rare people that like partied in the 70s and like kind of just like
reeled it in.
Yeah, he always smoked weed my whole life. Never smoked it in front of me. My dad and I didn't talk for years because every time I came back, even when I got sober, the first year of my life of sobriety, my dad didn't talk. I call him like, Dad, I've been sober. He's like, yeah, I know, I've heard this before. Mm-hmm. And then I have a cousin, my cousin Jonathan. He got clean in Philly. He had a problem, and he came down to visit. I want to say I had like 18 months sober. I was renting a room from somebody at the time, not in halfway. I just rented a room, and my cousin came down to visit, and I didn't have room, so I got him a hotel room. Mm-hmm. We went to the gym, and I hadn't seen my dad's family hadn't talked to me in years, and he's like, "I'm gonna pick you up at like 6 o'clock. We're going to Papa's for dinner." I was like, "I'm not going to Papa's." I was like, "Nobody wants me there." He's like, "You're going to see Papa's. You're going to Papa's." Mm-hmm. And I've always been close from my grandfather, and him not talking to me when he saw me sober, he's never been so happy. Oh, now he's happy because he really knows he has me back in his life. And I looked at my dad. I was like, my dad owns property, and I was like, Dad, I was like, I got money. I was like, let me rent one of your places. He's like, call me Monday. And that's kind of how it started with the family. And now to this day, like my dad. First of all, my dad and I became like when I say best friends, cool. We talk every single day. Oh, he tells me every single day how proud he is of me. Mm-hmm. It's the most refreshing feeling in the world to know that I'm making myself proud. I'm making the people that love me the most and want to see me do well proud. Mm-hmm. I'm in my daughter's life. I'm there for her.
How's your daughter now?
She'll be 13 the 31st of December.
Wow.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine having a 13-year-old.
She definitely doesn't have the soul that I had at 13 because she is such a special human being. She has a sweet soul. I don't know. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, that's awesome. What so when you first got clean, like a lot of people don't realize like how hard it is to go over that hurdle with the family, because when I first got clean, I was so resentful at my family for not believing I was clean. And it took me so long to really understand that, like, hey, look, if you walk 20 miles into the woods, it's going to take you 20 miles to walk out. And I was always the person that would walk 20 miles into the wood, take 20 steps back, and then be like, bro, how come I'm not out of the woods yet,
Yeah, it takes, listen, the relationship I had with my father came through some issues. I mean, when I first started renting from him, I was like, that's my dad. I'll pay him a little late on time. Not late. He's not the end of the world. He's got the money. At first, since then took over a business, but he sold the property prior to that. I was like, you sold the fucking property that I'm renting? Because it was a building with a bunch of apartments in it. But I had no lease. So my dad's like, I'm just going to let you know, they want to renovate. You have no lease. You're going to be the first one out. So you're going to have to start finding a place to live. I was like, you fucking asshole. But hey, listen, I don't want anything easy anymore. Yeah. No, and nothing easy is worth keeping. And that's the truth.
And life is like that, like I experienced like so much death. And the only way I've been able to like try to get through it is like, I believe everything is given by God. And like, if I give you a shirt because you don't have a shirt, if I want that shirt back in 30 minutes, I get that shirt back in 30 minutes. If I met somebody that I love and I got to spend 7 or 8 years with them, I should be grateful that I got 7 or 8 years with them instead of being like, fuck you, God, why'd you take this person away? Because at the reality, the higher power of the universe can choose to take and give whatever, because the same power that is creating life, there's power that's taken away, because you can't create without destroying at the same time. So I believe there's like a balance in the universe, and it's like, when like a new flower grows, like another one dies.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's definitely,
and that's what makes life so special, is that it's so fragile.
It's I've never realized how fragile it is until these days.
Because when you're using it, like I remember I treated my body like a crack pipe. You know what I mean? Like my body was like a fucking syringe. It was like a fucking paraphernalia.
So when the last time I was in jail and got out, I'm a big guy. I've always been like, even since I was 13, like I've been bigger than my dad since I was like 13 years old. When I got I was 170. I told you that one hot dog that was going to last me 2 weeks.
Wow.
Like I didn't take care of myself. And when I was in and out, like I always worked out here and there. My body and my life is all I have. And my mind, you only got one. And drugs really took a toll on my brain. Just trying to learn new things and comprehend. People say, "Oh, it's part of getting older." I was like, "Yeah, you don't know the drugs that I did." So I definitely feel it on that aspect. And if anybody out there can prevent taking any other toll on your body that you don't have to do anymore, I highly suggest it.
1,000%. Real quick before we wrap up, if you could because I know it took you a while to work the steps, and I know a lot of people that slack on the steps. And like, honestly, like I believe one of my purposes in life is to motivate people to work the steps. And I feel like part of the 12 steps is to get other people through the 12 steps, So like, what is something that you would tell somebody that is like in recovery, but not really all in yet,
You have to do this. It's changed everything in my life, man. I learned things about myself I didn't want to accept or I wasn't aware of. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You can't teach somebody to change something that they're not willing to accept. And if you're not willing to accept or look into the reason that's causing you to act out in any kind of negative behavior, whether it's using or anything else, if you don't want to look inside and figure it out, you can't expect to solve the problem. The steps have helped me look at myself and try to help other people, guide them through what I went through and get them there in one piece.
Yeah.
And if they can stay sober and work themselves through the 12 steps, there's nothing better in this world. And there's nothing in this world that you can't achieve.
Yeah.
And it starts with the work.
I try to tell people that all the time. Is like, like being clean in itself is a superpower, because you just start operating at such a high level when you realize you're not spending your time getting fucked up.
We are the greatest human beings on the planet.
1,000%.
We really are we are superheroes. If you could just kind of apply that obsession, you can accomplish anything.
1,000%. Like whenever I see like these homeless people or whatever, and like people like, turn their backs, they're like, oh, these people are just fucking whatever. But it's like, dude, that guy who's out there hustling every day to make it happen.
Just imagine.
Imagine what he would do if he applied that into something positive, because like the hustle's there.
I'm obsessive with the things in my life that I know better myself, whether it's living sober, 12-step program, working hard, exercise. I mean, anything like that I know that's going to help make me feel good for myself, I'm obsessed with.
For sure. And what's obsession? Focus. You know what I mean? So a lot of times people see like the word obsession, they think it's like some negative thing, but it's like, if you want to really master one thing, you got to really be obsessed with it. You got to be focused about it. But the reality is there needs to be some type of balance with physical and spirituality as well, because if you just focus on one thing, it's just like, it's like working out, but only working out your biceps.
One part of your body is good and the other, and your mind might not be, or your mind might be good and your body's not. I agree 100%. I definitely take pride in trying to better myself every day, whether it's reading books or...
What are some books that really like changed you?
Well, was 12 agreements?
4 agreements.
4 agreements. Sorry, my mind just blank. You posted that years ago. That was the first book in recovery that changed my life.
Wow.
You posted that.
That book changed my life. Yeah.
You posted it. I bought it. I read it, and it changed my life.
Wow. You never told me.
Life shows up. And, I think I might have sent it to you.
Maybe. Yeah.
But I might have sent a picture of it to you, but I don't think I told you.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to a lot of audiobooks. My mind doesn't function properly. I do a lot of reading, a lot of podcasts. Definitely being one with yourself and finding out what you need, and the 12 steps will make you. The 12-step program will help give you purpose in this life. That's a fact. And I truly believe whether you're an alcoholic, an addict, or just a regular human being, the 12-step program can make every person on this planet a better person. Mm-hmm. You don't have to have an addiction or have a drug problem.
And it's super simple.
So simple.
Simple, practical, easy to apply. It's really a process of awareness. And the more awareness you get, the little space you get between your impulses. And that's really what 6 and 7 have done for me, is that there was a time where I would just think and do, or do and think. You know what I mean? And it's like, the more awareness I get a little space where I can think before I do. And then I can think a little longer. And then maybe I do a little less. And sometimes people say like, oh, like I could be quiet. But there's a time where I couldn't. Yeah, no. There's a time where I would say things I shouldn't say. Like, I learned how to sleep on things.
In certain situations, I can be known to get a little bit. I don't want to say out of character, but I have a strong personality. Mm-hmm. So I've learned to tone that back a little bit, because when I say things like, I'm known for saying things maybe not the softest way to approach somebody who might be going through it, and it's not doing it intentionally. And ideally, I care. Mm-hmm. I've tried to learn my delivery to bring it a little bit softer, because I don't want to push anybody away or offend it, feel like I'm attacking them in a sense, when I'm really just trying to have a conversation. I surround myself around people that are going to call me out on my shit. I want to be able to be around people who can do the same, because none of us are perfect.
For sure.
And we don't always notice when we're acting out either. So I definitely try to embrace that. And it's helped me. And I'm known for keeping to myself a little bit too. Yeah. I'm happy. Life is amazing.
Hey, I appreciate you, bro. I love you so much. It's so cool doing the podcast, because there's people that I've known for years and I don't really know their whole story. And even when you hear people speak at meetings or whatever, you get like such a little glimpse. But like, you really are somebody that like so many people would watch your story and be like, there's no way he's going to turn it around. No way.
I had like maybe 18 months, and the business I'm in, I deal with a lot of successful people. And I was usually that person that shouldn't be in this kind of environment. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was at one of my customers' houses in Jacksonville, and we got done with their appointment. They live in like a $6 million house. Mm-hmm. And we got done with their appointment, and they didn't want me to leave their house. And I left. I was like, I gotta go. I got like a 5-hour drive. And I was like, I got in the car and I was like driving. And I'm like, these people want me around. It's so strange to me. Being a genuine person, and you start fitting around with regular people, you're not what you don't, your past does not define you, period.
And what I always tell people is like, dude, recovery is going to do the reverse thing of what the drugs did. So it's like, there's a time before drugs I was charismatic, happy, whatever, people liked me, I was trustworthy, and then like the drugs turned me into somebody where I woke up one day and I was like, who the fuck is this person? Ending up in places where I don't belong. I remember going to court and like my dad would look around and be like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah. And I came from a good family.
Me too.
A good area, Yeah, my fucking parents through fucking hell. I'm just thankful that they could sleep at night knowing that I'm okay.
And then you get into recovery. Within 18 months, 2 years, you're in a situation where you also are like, what the fuck am I doing here?
No, for sure.
And you pinch yourself like, is this real life? Like, I remember having 2 years clean, and I was dating this girl who, in my opinion, was like way out of my league. She came from like a good family. And like sometimes being a drug addict, being clean doesn't even seem real sometimes. And I remember we were eating ice cream like on the pier. I was just staring like into like nothing. And she was like, are you okay? I was like, I can't believe I'm eating ice cream right now with you. You know? And it seems so fucking weird, but it's like when you're on drugs, you might be walking on a pier looking at people eating ice cream and be like, how does that happen? You know what I mean?
Well, it's crazy because 7 years. So the company that I work for 7 years ago, they didn't want me anywhere near the business. Now I'm their number one guy. I mean, they call me to bounce off ideas off their head. You know, it's refreshing.
Cool.
Yeah, man. And I couldn't have done it without the program and this journey, man.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate you, Shane. And whenever you want to come back on the show, whenever you want to work out, maybe you, me, and Carl will hang out sometime.
I think you should come to CrossFit Militia one of these days.
Yeah, you're into CrossFit.
A little bit.
What do you bench press?
I don't bench press. I mean, I bench.
You look like you could bench your house right now.
Well, before CrossFit, I used to like work out with 315, but CrossFit, we don't. Bench is like not. I mean, we bench, but not like that.
Weight,
we squat and snatch and clean and do high school gymnastics and all types of crazy shit. Bunch of fun stuff. Right. I think you would like it.
I'll check it out. Hey, appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Bye. This show is not affiliated with any specific 12-step program. If you or a loved one is struggling with an addiction, please find a local 12-step meeting. If you believe you may need detox or drug treatment of any kind, please call 833-999-1877 to speak to a specialist. The show is sponsored by United Recovery Project, a state-of-the-art drug and alcohol rehab facility. You can visit our website at unitedrecoveryproject.com.